So welcome everybody to our November 2021 Blackstone Franklin Square Neighborhood Association community meeting. We got a few things on the agenda tonight. It's a all positive meeting, I like to say, as opposed to sometimes some of the meetings we have and the things we talk about. And so the first guest we have is Justin DeBenedictis Kesner. I hope I said your name reasonably well, Justin, who's a South End resident, and he's a Kennedy School researcher who's studying Boston residents' attitudes toward new residential development. And one of the means by which he's doing that is a survey that all residents, including everybody attending tonight, is asked and welcome to take. And it's kind of interesting, and it only takes a few minutes. So I'll put that link in the chat. And with that, I'll turn it over to Justin.
Yeah, thank you. Along with a collaborator, Mike Hankinson, we're academic researchers, and we're basically hoping to understand more about how and when people are favorable or not towards housing developments in their neighborhoods. And we're specifically focusing on this in Boston. I'm a South End resident. I live down on Washington Street, so I'm particularly interested in how people feel about development in the South End, of course. And this survey, which we can put in the chat for sure, we reached out to many neighborhood associations across the city. Basically, we're trying to understand if certain types of development are better for people. Is that things that people like more or less? The survey includes questions on potential developments in the neighborhood, so in the South End in this case. And these hypothetical proposals feature some images of the proposals and several other pieces of information about the size or the potential benefits of the developments. And it only takes a couple of minutes to complete, but we're really hoping to hear from people in this neighborhood association as well as many others. So we've shared individual links with different types of people. This is obviously something that's important on the agenda later tonight is, another discussion about an actual housing development on Albany Street. So obviously this is the type of thing that gets discussed a lot in the neighborhood, and you guys have a chance to report your opinions on this survey as well as sort of as you might do in a normal meeting. Something I didn't mention yet, but specific to the Blackstone Franklin community, we're happy to sort of, if we get enough respondents from this neighborhood association, we're happy to create a sort of a custom report for the Blackstone Franklin community, just so that the neighborhood association knows how people feel about development and sort of some summary opinions from this survey that we get. I think it's really important for us to help sort of report back how people in the association feel. But our plan is to more broadly share the overall findings with the city of Boston, people both in the planning areas of the city, as well as members of the city council who represent the city broadly, and then specifically the South End. The hope with that, of course, is that the city can learn more about what residents and voters want. Of course, we're also academic researchers, so we're hoping to use the data from this project to help the academic community understand how people feel about real estate development and sort of why they do or don't like certain types of development. I really want to be here and let you guys ask me any questions. If you have any, you're welcome to take the survey at any point. We're going to keep it open for another month or so, but we'd especially like any responses you guys have.
Can you describe, Justin, a little bit how the survey works? I've taken it, and it's kind of cool. You basically are presenting people with imaginary development proposals, but they're in real locations. So you can sort of, that would be familiar to people on this call in the case of the South End. So can you just speak a little bit about kind of what you're trying to do with that?
If you guys take this survey, you'll notice we'll ask you sort of where in general you live, and then we'll present some properties that are pretty nearby you to ask your opinion on potential developments there. And we wanted to make this as realistic as possible. Again, later on the agenda, you're going to be talking about an actual proposal on Albany Street, and just in the same way that a developer might show you features of that development, might show you renderings of what that might look like. The survey features some renderings of what these sort of buildings might look like if they're made larger or changed in form.
And Justin, will you send those results back to us? Would you come back and circle back with us after you've summarized your findings?
Yeah, I'm absolutely happy to. I mean, in terms of like the data in the study, as with most, I'd say, academic surveys, we take confidentiality pretty seriously. So we're not going to report any individual person's results, but aggregated findings would be presented in any kind of paper. And as I mentioned earlier, because this link is personalized for the Blackstone Franklin Square Neighborhood Association, I can also use this to create a report just based on this neighborhood association. And so I'd be happy to send you that report in written form. I'd be happy to come back and discuss it with you guys once we're done with this.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone have a question? I have one other question, Justin, if I could. So when the imaginary developments, are they largely sort of ones where you're projecting a larger structure on an existing site? That seemed to be the basic idea.
Yeah.
was sort of posing the question, like, would you be willing to have a larger structure on the existing site, period? And then there was also sort of the possibility, would you be willing to do it if there were X number of community benefits, or if there was Y, affordable housing component, or that sort of a thing?
Right, exactly. And so basically, like any realistic development that's happening these days, most of them are increasing the size of buildings if they're going to do an overhaul rather than decreasing the size.
Cool. Anyone else?
I'd love to take a look at the survey and participate, even though I'm not specifically a member of this neighborhood association, but it seems very interesting. I imagine you're targeting developers and maybe institutions for basically due diligence purposes, I imagine. Is that kind of the purpose of the survey and the product?
Not particularly institutions and developers. It's more to understand like normal people. Yeah, so we're not sending this to, say, a property developer, and we're not like working for a property developer, for instance. Is that what you meant, Drew? Sorry, I don't know if I understood you correctly.
Yeah, just coming from a developer, it just seems like it'd be an interesting application to essentially get a sense of what a potential development, how it might go over in a forum like this. It's obviously a very apropos kind of discussion we're having right now. But yeah, I imagine it from an academic level, but also just trying to get it, the usefulness of it. I think in the market seems like it'd be great for an institution, a school that's building a new dormitory, or a developer that's building a new property. It just seems like it'd be a good way to really kind of hone in on what the best potential locations for those might be.
Right, and some of the features that people do or do not like about developments. I think you're obviously here to talk to people in the neighborhood about a potential development. It's like that's something that I think developers also could use as better information, so that they can better serve the communities where they're trying to build new things or redevelop things.
And just to remind us, you'll keep the survey open for the next month or so. Is that?
Yep.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else want to ask a question or make a comment? Thanks, Justin.
Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, thanks all of you.
So Tony, why don't you? So I apologize, I skipped ahead right over the announcements. So you give the announcements, and then we'll talk to Daniel.
Okay, very quickly, I just want to give this neighborhood association some transparency into the treasurer's report for the neighborhood association. So our operating account has $14,636 in it. Our parks account has $19,499, and our scholarship account has $35,464. And on that scholarship account, I would like to acknowledge a $10,000 gift from Andrew Partham's mother, Marjorie, which is why it's such a lot of people were touched by Andrew, and that's why our scholarship account is sitting at such an amazing, generous number, even with no fundraising over a 2-year period. No, citywide fundraising initiatives. The other announcement I want to make is Blackstone Franklin Neighborhood Association does an annual tree sale in Blackstone and Franklin Squares. Actually, it's on the Blackstone side. We sell Christmas trees and wreaths to raise money for the neighborhood. And there is a tree shortage this year. So I'd really like you, and I'd encourage you to A, support your neighborhood by buying your trees from us. And B, get your order in early because there is a tree shortage and you might not get a tree. Like everything in this country, there's a shortage. So we just want to put our link out. I'm going to put it in the chat. And if you could look through that and support us in our fundraising efforts so that we can do more work in the squares and in the neighborhood.
Thank you, Tony. And I'll just say also on the tree shortage, that also will account for what at least struck me as the surprisingly high prices this year.
Yes.
So do not be surprised when you go on our site and see what the prices are. That is,
yeah, so it is a
reflecting the
fundraiser.
marketing reality.
It is a fundraiser, but we really have much smaller margins than usual,
Right.
given how expensive trees have gotten this year due to the shortage. So, and I'd like to encourage every one of you, especially Dimple, welcome to the neighborhood. If you want to volunteer and come and help us sell Christmas trees, we'll be in Blackstone Square on the, what is the date? 4th of December. I should have the big poster here. We'll be selling trees and just generally outreach into the community. It's a fun day for all of us. So everyone,
I would love to volunteer. Actually, I'd love to help out.
wonderful. So we're going to be putting posters up on the squares so that everyone will know what day and what time to pick up the trees but order online in case we don't have enough to sell on the day. We will also have a pedicab. If you guys remember, we'll have our awesome pedicab guy. He puts, Christian is his name. And the photographs are awesome with you and your tree riding a pedicab down Washington Street to your address. And that is a complimentary, festive little way of getting your tree home. If you're there when he's done with one of his routes. But it's a good day. Please come and support your neighborhood association and help or buy or both.
Thank you, Tony. And just want to say one other thing on the scholarship fund, which is, as Tony said, the outpouring of support, financial and otherwise, in memory of our friend Andrew, who passed away last January, was extraordinary. And it meant that we were able to give awards to the largest number of students ever last year at a really great ceremony. But the scholarship committee has been working really hard over the last number of months, and they'll give us an update in January, and they're on track to restart the fundraising and I think to be really successful this year. And they've got some great plans, so they'll talk about that in January. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Daniel Rodriguez, who is the manager of the Affinity Medical Marijuana Dispensary at 591 Albany Street. And they are just coming up on their first year anniversary of being open. I think they opened in December of last year. And so Daniel's gonna just introduce himself as the manager, say hi, tell us a little bit about the business. And Daniel, I've given you screen sharing if you do want to share any pictures, but go ahead.
Thank you so much, David. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Like you said, my name is Danny Rodriguez. I'm the general manager here at Affinity Boston at 591 Albany Street. December 22nd will be our first year anniversary, and we're super excited, and I cannot believe it's been a year. I've been with the company over a year now. I started right before we opened, and it's been certainly a journey to open a dispensary in Boston in the middle of a pandemic, to say the least, but it's been really great. We luckily have an amazing team that's super passionate about what we do, about customer service, and most importantly, about helping out the neighborhood. I have been the general manager now for about 2 months now, and that has been my main mission, to try to create more of a presence in the neighborhood. It being medical only, it can be a little slow sometimes. So we're trying any little thing we can do to try to generate a little bit more buzz. And I want to get to know you guys a little more for sure. It was great working with David last week on Veterans Day. We do have to close for all Boston holidays, so we do take advantage of those days and turn them into volunteer days. So we're able to clean up around the neighborhood, including Fleckton Square and Blackstone Park. So that's something that we will be doing regularly, at least once a month throughout the year. And and the team really enjoys it, which is fantastic. I'm going to give you guys a quick little tour of the space, as I'm sure a lot of you guys have not seen it, but I'll position it over here. This is basically what you see when you walk in. This used to be the flower shop. Valentine's Day, people were very disappointed when they were coming around here. All week long, they were knocking around. But as you can see, we've got to keep the skylights, which we're super excited about, super rare. And a lot of these basement dispensaries, super clean, looks like an Apple store. Straightforward. We do not have any products on the floor. Everything comes out of the window right here, which obviously is closed right now. We have iPads at each station where we have the menus pulled up. That's one of our newer additions. Just little by little, we're making it a little bit better for our patients. As far as our patients, definitely most of them are from the neighborhood. A lot of them are part of the hardship program, so we get a mix of everyone, and we are more than happy to accommodate anyone with pain. Mostly people are looking for help with sleep. That's something that I noticed here. And a lot of cancer patients as well. We've had to say goodbye to a few of our patients, which is very sad, but obviously part of this industry, and we're thankful to give them some relief on their final days. Right now, we are doing a sock drive for Pine Street Inn. We're just collecting socks for the month of November. So if you're around, swing by and we'll take some socks from you guys. And that is pretty much it. I just wanted to introduce myself to you all. Super excited to be part of this neighborhood. I've actually worked in this neighborhood a really long time. I used to be the general manager at B&G Oysters, so I worked with Barbara Lynch. I managed at the butcher shop. I worked with Ken Oranger and Jamie Bissonette. I helped open Little Donkey in Cambridge, but I would help out at Copa and Toro all the time. So I'm very familiar with the neighborhood. Really excited to see the growth in this neighborhood. Really looking forward to Albany Street changing. Obviously right now we are completely surrounded by vacant buildings. There's a construction site in front and behind us. So hoping though progress in those projects will help us out in the long run, without a doubt.
And Danny, we really want to thank you for your cleanup. I mean, those photos were awesome. I think David said you were out for a couple of hours. So
yeah, we started a little bit before then. We started on our street first. It's our pleasure. It's something that we do pretty frequently on our street. We probably do it once a week, just for obvious reasons, and obviously very carefully, of course. But yeah, it's our pleasure.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you, and thank you for the sock drive. Are those new socks?
New socks, please. Yes. New socks preferred, of course.
I'm sure you also want to hear from Drew today. So just re-energizing Albany Street. That's awesome. Thank you, Danny.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much, everyone.
Does anyone have any questions for Danny? Danny, I have one thing I'd ask you to speak to, just because although nobody here apparently has this question, but we do hear it from time to time. Just talk about the fact or your status as a medical marijuana dispensary.
Yes, of course. Yes, in July 1st, we were acquired by Green Thumb Industries. They're a really large company. They have now 90 stores across the country, which is really, really good for us. Now we have 2 cultivation facilities in Massachusetts, which is amazing. That being said, they already had 3 recreational licenses and one medical. So basically, we will not be going recreational ever. We will stay medical, which is I'm very relieved, because I did work at Garden Remedies in Newton, and they were both, and that was a lot, to say the least. So being able to give those one-to-one interactions with our patients is going to be amazing. So just knowing that we'll only be medical only is awesome. So we're just really focused on cultivating amazing regulars, giving really great experience, and providing safe and premium products to the neighborhood.
And the fact that you'll stay medical, that's because your owner they're maxed out on both sides of their
Exactly.
licenses.
Massachusetts, you could only have 3 recreational licenses and 3 medical licenses, so no more than 6.
Right.
Some people can combine them and do like 2 in 1 store, and so they'll only have 3 dispensaries. We are now the only company that has 6 freestanding stores in the state.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Danny.
And
Thank you
Danny,
so much.
sorry, David, I just want to ask, Danny, do you still have that, like you have an incredible assortment of, oh, I apologize. Sorry, that's an alarm for my kids. Do you still have a bakery? Do you still do all sorts of products, or
Yes,
have you
yes.
do?
So one of our signature items are her cookies and macaroons, which we still have them on the menu. Luckily,
That's awesome.
we have a French trained pastry chef that works for the company.
I thought you would show it. I thought you would zoom in on your.
I don't have that display anymore.
Okay.
I remember how we had the open house. We had
Yeah.
that really nice. Fortunately, they didn't really last very long for obvious reasons. So we just have like pipes and stuff in that case.
Okay. Okay. But for the okay, so it's a.
But definitely you can check out our Instagram. You'll see a lot of our products there. Go to Affinity NE. That's
Can
our.
you put it in the chat, Danny? Can
Yeah,
you just put
absolutely.
your
I'll be more than
Instagram
happy to.
Wonderful.
Okay,
Then we can
absolutely.
follow and look at
Yeah, that would be amazing.
everything. Thank you.
Thanks,
Excellent.
Danny.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks. So our next,
I don't have a question, but just wanted to say I finally got to meet Danny and see the shop a couple weeks ago. Danny's just a fantastic guy, and I was just blown away by what they did with the inside. If anyone's curious, I recommend just poking your head in because it's beautiful. I used to buy Christmas trees from the flower market when it was in existence a number of years ago when I lived around the corner, and it was quite a transformation, and just great job. You guys are doing excellent work there.
Really, really appreciate it. We still sell trees and flowers. They're just a little different.
So actually, if you stand there, Danny, our next agenda item is literally on the wall behind you, and through the wall, I should say. So Drew Bazard is a developer who joined us actually at our September meeting to present on his company's proposal for 595 Albany Street, which is right behind Danny on the opposite side of the wall, the corner of Albany and East Canton Street, currently the site of a 2-story sort of pink brick building that formerly was the home of the Baha'i Center of Boston that has had it on the market for a year or more now. And so Drew and his company have a proposal to redevelop that into a new building, residential and mixed use. Drew walked us through it sort of at the tail end of our last meeting, and I think received favorable reviews and comments, and has made some changes since then, including in response to some thoughts that were expressed here. So I'm going to turn it over to Drew to explain it again, and then we will hold a vote of the members on a motion to offer our support, which he's asked for this proposal. So go ahead, Drew.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate it and appreciate the time once again to talk to you guys. Can you share screen so I can just bring up the presentation?
You should be able to.
All right.
I gave everybody. There we go. Good.
Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. There we go. Is my so this is the proposal for 595 Albany Street, which is directly next door to the Affinity dispensary. We just met Danny. Danny and I actually went over our proposal as well when we were able to speak the other week. And I think we're both pretty excited about the prospect of really bringing some new life to this corner of East Canton Street and Albany Street, in addition to some of the other exciting projects that are almost happening right around the same block. The phase 2 of the Smith is going to be starting back up in the spring, and it seems like the South End Exchange could be in track to at least break ground on some portions of that project. in the next 12 months or so. So a lot of exciting things happening, and we hope everyone agrees that our proposal for 595 fits within that vision. And I'm going to move through it pretty quickly because this is the second time we've gone through it. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. I'm sure some of you have not. So if I'm going too fast, feel free to jump in at any time. Also, I can go back once we get to the end as well if anybody has any more questions. But what we are proposing is a 6-story ground up construction, 9-unit residential condominium building with a street level commercial space. Commercial space is pretty wide open for what could be used there. It could be a cafe, it could be an artist studio. We're really not bound to any one particular thing. It's not a financial piece to the project. It's more of as an opportunity to bring some interface between the pedestrian traffic at that corner and the building. So we have, I'll get to the slides and I'm a little further down with the existing building, but here we go. Oh, these guys are not here, unfortunately, but sorry. Catriel Tullian is our lead architect on the project. He works with Stack & Company. He's a principal there. We're also considering and speaking with Stack & Company as being the construction management lead on the project as well. Catriel's got a lot of experience in historically sensitive areas. He's got a great contemporary vision, and just it's been a pleasure working with those guys so far. Mark Lacasse is a very experienced real estate attorney, zoning attorney, who we're working with on getting our necessary entitlements through to make this project a reality. I'll get to those in a little bit, but mainly it's there's a number of variances that we need to that we're seeking relief from zoning, as well as we're looking for permission to demolish the existing 2-story brick building that is considered a contributing building in the South End Landmarks Protection Area, which is different from the Landmarks District. This is just a quick map of the boundaries of Blackstone Franklin Square Neighborhood Association. 595 Albany Street is right here. And as many of you are aware, just kind of a locus of the property, the existing building you can see is right here, the 2-story brick building. And this shows some renderings as well as some of the finished buildings that have been constructed over the next few years to kind of get an idea of what the property will be centered in the next coming years. This is a rendering actually taken from the Abbey Group website that was showing the Albany Street streetscape with the South End Exchange in place. They captured a portion of the building right here and took the liberty to change the look of it anyway, but this was just an idea of, again, kind of what the vision is for Albany Street and hopefully where our building will take place in it. So here's an image of the existing building. It's the currently the Baha'i Center of Boston. The building, as I'll get to in a little bit, has recently there's been a violation notice issued, as well as it's generally very well known that there are major structural concerns, and that has limited the use of the buildings for a number of years now. The Baha'i Church has not been able to hold a congregation there. Anything more than just a couple of people are really allowed to enter the building now. So they're looking to find a new location, potentially a number of new locations around the Boston area, but are looking to decentralize from this one because it's really just obsolete for their purposes now. Just some photos of some of the obvious structural issues that are going on with the building, a lot of settlement. The interior members are rotting out. The brick piers are out of level or decaying, deteriorating. There has since been some temporary shoring done, literally just to keep the building from falling down. And that is undergoing monthly inspections to make sure that all is still in place and we don't have any major issues on our hands. Here's just a copy of the violation notice. This was issued in May of this year, essentially saying that they need to put up some temporary shoring or tear the building down right away. The owners did provide the temporary shoring measures, which were for a temporary basis, basically to continue due diligence up until a sale, and so that they could get their belongings out of the building. So getting into the design, this is some renderings of the massing. This is the same photo as in the front slide, but it's a 6-story building with a mixture of 1+ den bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and a penthouse top level unit that's a 3-bedroom, 3.5 bathroom. We're also proposing to have 3-foot cantilevered balconies on the front. You'll also see on the rear. About right here is where the 1+ bedrooms are, and the 2 bedrooms are off the back. And we're also, to match that profile, are proposing 3-foot cantilevered living space areas that just provide some better circulation. We think really provides just a more interesting dynamic to the exterior of the building. Also, as you'll see in this slide, really gives us some cool opportunities to provide some interesting streetscape lighting, and just really brighten up the corner and just breathe some life into that corner of the area. So here's a picture of the rear. Again, 3-foot cantilever balconies for the 2-bedroom spaces off the back, and some additional 3-foot cantilevered living space areas as well. Again, here's a great image of the sidewalk lighting that we can really incorporate into this design, given these kind of bump out cantilevered sections. And one more shot looking a little straighter down East Canton Street. You can really see the rendering of the second phase of the Smith here. First phase is already finished. And this is again the night shot of it. So as I'll show you in a quick second, what we did here since our last meeting is we really expanded the window glazing interface of the retail commercial space to the sidewalk area. We think that really enhances the experience of the building there, and it's a pretty drastic increase from where we were when we first did this presentation. I think it's definitely a net benefit to the look and just the massing of the building in general as well. And one more shot down, looking down Albany Street a little more. So when we first came and gave our proposal, this was our layout for the street level. So this is this level here. Here's the retail space that we had here. It was pretty small. It was just under 300 square feet. We had 7 parking spaces. 4 were accessed from East Canton Street and 3 from the rear alley. The feedback we got was that retail space is just too small for anything that's going to be really, a draw for the neighborhood. It just seemed like it was just kind of an afterthought, and I didn't disagree with that. I think what we did to change that, it was really, like I said, a net benefit for the building. We got rid of one of the parking spaces. We moved our transform and our trash room from the trash room was originally up here. We moved it down here. This gives us more circulation to get the trash out to the street in the back alley so that we're not moving around cars or getting out to Albany Street. The retail space now is almost 500 square feet, 491 square feet, which is still pretty small, but a very decent size for a neighborhood coffee shop, a really good size for an artist gallery. I think there's a lot of different options that could really happen there. We also added some wall mount bike storage here, and that was a suggestion of one of the neighborhood association members that I totally agree with as well. I think it's great to have that as an option, especially as we're reducing one of our parking spaces. Luckily, we weren't sure about this, but the reduction of the parking spaces from 7 to 6 does not flag us for another variance with the ZBA. There's some wild calculations that go into what parking spaces are required, and it's based on seemingly very arbitrary things. But luckily, we thought we would needed 7. We can get away with 6 just fine. The fact that there is the Smith garage in the rear that's sharing the alleyway, that they have ample parking back there, I think bodes well for a lot of options for residences here. And I think it's just good to promote, less driving if we can. So like I said, I think it's overall just a net benefit. These are the layouts of the units. We have a direct elevator access. The 1+ bedrooms are encompassed here. You can see the deck spaces. Those decks aren't really meant to be like decks that you would be standing out on for a long term. It's more just like an indoor-outdoor space. So you can open up the doors, have some sense of indoor-outdoor. As you'll see, there is a common roof deck for the lower units, the 8 1+ and 2-bedroom units, to be used for congregation grilling and things like that. This is the 3-bedroom, 3-bath on the top level that has a private deck space over the proposed bump out area here. And this is the roof level that would be accessed by elevator, but also the 2 necessary egress stairs in case of fire emergency. We're proposing a private deck for the top level unit here, separated by the mechanicals and some planters, and would have a nice rear public deck for the 8 other units to utilize. So required ZBA relief. So this is what we're here for tonight. We're seeking support for relief of these variances that we were more or less flagged for under the zoning code with our submission to inspectional services. GCOD applicability, that's groundwater conservation overlay district, that requires that we put an approved site plan in place that captures the stormwater runoff, puts it into holding containers underneath the ground, lets that water dissipate back into the groundwater instead of being run off into the drainage system. And the purpose for that, among a few benefits, is the main purpose for it is to protect the wood pilings that most, if not all, of the south end is really standing on. So important to do that. Excessive FAR. We do have a very tight footprint for our property. It's 2,693 square feet. It's about 33 by 80 square feet. We are proposing to go up 6 floors, which is right in line with the surrounding buildings around us. Unfortunately, given our small footprint, that gives us an FAR of just about 6. The as of right FAR is a 4.0. In the area, there is an option to get a 6.0 as of right FAR for a PDA, but one of the many requirements for the PDA is you have to have at least an acre of developable space. So we're very, very far beneath that. But we will be coming in right around a 6.0 FAR. And that moves into the next variance, which is excessive building height. The actual building itself outside of the roof deck is within the as of right height of 70 feet. It's 69 feet. However, we do have elevator access, 2 staircase access. I'll actually go back to it quickly here. These mechanical areas actually count within the square footage on the roof, as well as the corridor and the halls to access the roof decks. Again, giving our small footprint to not be flagged for this, we would have to be under 350 square feet for all of that indoor space. We've limited as much as we really can. We think for the usability of it, we've centered everything in the middle of the building so as to, be shielded from the street and the sidewalk areas. We have conformed to all of the necessary 5 feet setbacks from the roof. So it's really just an issue again with having such a small footprint and having a usable area up there. So that in itself is what flags us for excessive building height, not so much that our actual habitable building space is higher than the as of right, because it's not. It's actually right at 69 feet. Insufficient rear yard, that's a pre-existing non-conforming condition. There's a 20-foot rear yard condition for this area. This building has always gone all the way up to the property line ever since it was constructed a number of years ago. Means of vehicular access to the street. So we'll be seeking a curb cut approval on East Canton Street. That will need to be approved in order to allow the necessary parking on that side. We think that should be not a problem. We'll propose just a regular 12-foot wide curb cut, very typical, but that would need to be approved as well. Off-street loading of any project, I believe over 16,000 square feet needs a loading zone. We have a loading zone. However, our height at our garage door here is just beneath 14 feet, and that's a requirement for a loading zone. It's for commercial vehicles, trucks. In our purposes, being a residential unit, residential building, it'd really just be for moving trucks. The height that we have now, which is just under 14 feet clearance, should be fine for most moving trucks outside of the really, really large ones. So we would need a variance from that as well. And then lastly is the residential conditional use, which was implemented a number of years ago. This used to be this area, residential use used to be forbidden in this area. It was moved to conditional use to promote access to residential use in this area under the Harrison Albany Street corridor strategic plan, I believe in 2012. However, since it's not an as of right condition, we do need relief from that as well. And I tried to keep it short, but I'm already feeling my voice getting lost here. But I think that's all that I have, and would love to hear your feedback. And like David mentioned, we'd really be looking for the neighborhood support on this and going into the ZBA, the subsequent ZBA hearing, and continue our conversations with the Landmarks Commission with support from the association, and a letter from endorsement, I think would really help get this project to the starting line.
Thank you, Drew. Does anyone have any questions or comments they want to raise?
I just have a comment. I did meet with him not that long ago, and very excited about the potential project next door. It'll be huge for us without a doubt for this block alone. Not excited about construction, but that's why I'm glad we met before so we can get close, because I'm sure we're gonna get real close. But even with that, bring it on. It's very exciting for the street. So very exciting.
Yep, thanks, Danny. Yeah, we definitely identified some nice art and pieces on the shelves on the wall abutting the property that might have to be probably nailed down for a number of months, but definitely going to be a collective effort.
Chloe, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I think it looks like a great project to revitalize the area. I would, however, just like to see more options other than 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. Just feel like we have a lot of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, which really limits families of anything larger than, 2 or 3 people to be and stay in the area. But I think it's great to revitalize that area and bring more people into all parts of the South End.
Great. Yeah. No, thank you for your question. Yeah, I'm a father of 3. I definitely understand where you're coming from there. We do have so the I don't know if I had this in my presentation. I apologize. The square footages for the 1+ are around 1,000 square feet. The 2 bedrooms are 1,432, and the 3 bedroom is just under 2,300 square feet. But you're right, definitely pretty small for a family of 2 or more kids. We were really constrained with the size of the footprint on this property. There's really no way to kind of take more area there with Danny's operation. As it is this beautiful shop that's probably going to be there for a very, very long time. The opportunity to do larger vision there is just really tough given our property line constraints. But that is a great question.
Anyone else? So I just wanted to go back to the fact that you presented back in September, and again, just note sort of what the reaction was, because there were some residents and members there.
Excuse me.
Oh, go ahead.
Hi, it's Deborah.
Oh, hey, Deborah, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Albany Street. Yeah, no, well, I'm not visible. I had not been to the previous presentation. I just need, I have a basic question. Are these condos or rentals?
Yes, they're condos. It's an opportunity for some long-term stakeholders for this property.
And are they all market rate, or is there some, are you taught, do you have a possibility of some affordable housing here?
Again, unfortunately, there is not an opportunity for affordable housing. They'll all be market rate. There's just not enough space unless you really went with smaller micro units to fit on this property. But to the point of the opportunity that we do have is at the commercial storefront area. Again, we're not married to, it really doesn't work into the financials of the building at all. We really want to look at that as an opportunity for the neighborhood. But yes, the units themselves, the residential units, will be market rate.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? So just to recap a few comments that occurred at the September meeting, just because there were some residents and members who were there that night, not here tonight. Again, and Drew touched on them mostly. The comments were to expand the retail or commercial space on the ground floor to activate that corner. And it seemed like a number of people at that meeting said something that a couple of people have touched on tonight, which is just that this project feels like it activates a corner that has been, pretty dead for a long time. That just little stretch of Albany Street. There's a very, there's a vibrant community in the brick buildings just up East Canton Street. And now we have the Smith, which has introduced a couple hundred people, but that's just far enough away from the corner that it doesn't, sort of activate that corner. And I just speaking for myself, but also some other people who have echoed the sentiment. I feel strongly like this is going to really activate a corner and a block of Albany Street that could really use it and bring some life and some eyes on the street. That'll be really terrific. Just wanted to make that observation for myself. Anyone else before we take a vote on a motion to support this project? So
I just want to say that I wish there was a way there could at least be one unit of affordable housing, considering the housing shortage in the area for affordable units for people. Everything, I mean, I just think we need, the diversity has just been going downhill economically. So that's just my opinion. And I understand it's a small building, but it'd be nice if there was something. That's something that makes me hesitate in adding a vote. That's all.
You want to speak to that, Drew, or
Yes, again, I appreciate the concern, and I certainly understand where you're coming from. Yeah, it's really the size of the building makes it very difficult to make this feasible with either smaller units and a number of affordable housings, or even if we did put an affordable housing unit, it would reduce the size of some of the makeup that we've worked on to make this a feasible project, given construction constraints with a tight space, the effort to get deep foundations on a very, very tight location, the accessibility to materials and labor, the acquisition point into getting into the property is just makes it very, very difficult to make it economically feasible. And I wish it was bigger. I wish we could have. Again, I never want to take Danny's place out, but I wish we could take those next 3 spots over and make that a much larger building. But there's just a lot of different stakeholders involved, and it just would be, I think, very difficult to do if it would ever be accomplished. And I think this is really a time to see the revitalization of this corridor, and to hopefully see the development of larger projects along this corridor as well that would invite some more affordable housing. I wish we could get it in here. It was just impossible for us to get it to make this project happen.
Daniel, I see your hand up.
Hi, this is actually Sarah Daniels.
Okay, sorry.
But
Sorry about that.
I'm wondering about the energy efficiency of the building, how much energy it uses, and if there's any plans to try and make it a sort of green building.
Yeah, so we haven't gotten down that deep into it yet. It is certainly our plan and intention to make this as close to a net zero building as possible. We don't have plans to go all electric. We don't have plans for a passive house, but we certainly want to incorporate as much green technology as we can, that being solar, using energy efficient appliances, and window efficient windows, things like that. It's definitely going to be on the forefront of our considerations. But yeah, we need to get to the starting line before we can really get there. But I'm happy to share updates on that once we get to that point. It's definitely very much a forefront for us. We're just not quite there on specifics.
Thank you.
Daniel, one other thing I wanted to touch on, which is the design of the facade. And you had a couple people at our last meeting said that they liked the project overall, but they wondered if you couldn't be quote unquote bolder in the design, perhaps meaning more modern and sort of less tied to the kind of brick and sort of traditionalist South End palette, if you will, of colors and materials. And you told us that in fact you were sort of feeling somewhat constrained by the South End Landmark Commission in terms of the guidance and directives that they were giving you, but that you were willing to sort of be bolder if in fact there was support for that. And that remains the case.
It does, yeah.
Okay.
I was hopeful at our last subcommittee with the Landmarks Commission that we would get more into that. Unfortunately, the focus of the discussion really just stuck on the potential demolition of the existing building. We would love to go bolder. I think this is a great opportunity for a revitalizing contemporary design here. We think we have that with the dynamics of the, the bump outs and the decks,
Right.
but we are incorporating, masonry facade pretty much all over it with varying degrees of traditional masonry coloring. We think it looks great, but would love to do something, a little more kind of a mixture of what you see here at the Smith, with maybe some traditional features on the street level, and then more contemporary coloring, material use. So we're not in a position to really switch back to that yet. What we see coming from the commission is, once we get hopefully final approval on the demolition, that
Right.
they are kind of staking their flag in the ground as far as input on future design. And I'm not sure exactly where that's going to go, but I would imagine that they would be pushing for something that's trending towards the the traditional look of the South End, with some kind of mixture there, which we're hoping to at least achieve that.
Right. Okay. So that's a conversation that will continue to be had with kind of between you as the developer, the commission as the sort of arbiter of taste to the extent that they are that, and residents to the extent that they wish to have input.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Anybody else before we do our vote? Not seeing anybody's hand up. So I'm going to put the poll up, and if people could just vote yes or no. Can everyone see it?
No.
I see it, Dave. Should I vote?
I don't see it.
I saw it, I voted.
It's funny, it's not letting me vote. I can see the results. Tony, I think it's you and me as hosts. For some reason, it's not letting us vote, but I can see what the vote is, and we can add ourselves in once we.
Okay, thank you, David.
Anyone else? We've got 8 people so far, and Tony, you and I'm going to vote yes. What are you going to vote, Tony?
I'm going to vote yes.
Okay. Anyone else want to vote? Nope. Okay. So it carries 10-1. Thank you, Drew.
Great. Well, thank you very much, you guys. I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate your support. This is an exciting project. I can't wait to see the Albany Street corridor in a few years. I think it's going to be special, and we're really hoping to be a part of it. So we're going to keep grinding from our end, working with the commission, with the government agencies to, as I keep saying, get to the starting line. We hope to be close to it by the end of the year, and I will certainly be very close in touch with all those milestones as we go on. And again, just really appreciate your support on this.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you, Drew. John Santiago. The floor is yours.
Hey, David, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Fantastic. Well, good evening, everyone. For those of you who I have not met yet, my name is John Santiago. I am your state representative. I'm also your neighbor. I just live probably a couple blocks away. I can't see who's on the call today because I'm on my cell phone. But as your state representative, I just wanted to, I try to make an effort to stop by the neighborhood associations. I don't know, every so often. I think you guys have met Nick Bornstein, who's on the call right now. Nick is a point of contact from my office, so feel free to send him an email. Nick, if you could put my email in your email in the chat, that'd be fantastic. And feel free to write us. But what I try to do is to get out to the neighborhoods. Obviously, given COVID, we've been out in the Zoom territory for, I guess, almost 2 years now. So we're doing this virtually. But it's really just to touch base, update you on some of my work in the legislature, some of the stuff that I'm working on in the community, and really just to hear back from you, your thoughts on the neighborhood, some issues that may arise, some concerns, your thoughts, and what you would like to see me advocating for up in the State House. I represent you in the State House, so not the City Council, city level, but I will say that we work closely together on some city-state issues, and just because it's a city thing or a federal thing doesn't mean you can't reach out to me and advocate for a certain issue happening in the neighborhood, because as a resident, I live there as well. So a couple things, I just want to touch base on COVID. Some of you know, we're still in the midst of this COVID pandemic. In addition to my role as the state representative, I'm also a physician at Boston Medical Center, which I don't know if does that fall within Blackstone Franklin? I know that's probably WSANA. But in any case, I've been pretty active here in the State House, leading a number of efforts within the House of Representatives. As you know, we're up to about 70% of people in the Commonwealth who are eligible that have been double vaxxed, and many more with boosters. So that's a good thing. I want to say over the past couple of weeks, ages 5 to 11, they've been promoted and now eligible to get vaccinated as well. An issue I care very much about is vaccine equity. And I think some of you were involved in some of the efforts I did to vaccinate, not just our community, but those folks least likely to get vaccinated. We started a program called GOT Vax, and we vaccinated about 9,000 people, primarily door to door. And in fact, although we went citywide, and some would argue across the region as well, it actually started in the South End. So some of the buildings that you guys either represent as a neighborhood association or neighboring, such as the cathedral and the like, were vaccinated, but many more to do. I also sit on the COVID-19 committee at the State House. I'm the vice chair of the committee, and have played a significant role in making sure that we mandate vaccinations for members, which we just passed last week. And you may read in the Globe today that the State House is still closed. We will be reopening as soon as it is safe for everyone, not just for members who work there and for staff who need to be there, but also for the tourists that come by, the many lobbyists and the many advocates that walk through the State House on any given day. My hope is that, given where we're at in the pandemic, and we'll see what winter comes, if there will be a rise or not, that we can open up safely early next year. Don't quote me on that, but that is, my hope. But it's going to depend on what the virus is. I think with Delta, not many of us were expecting it necessarily. And as you know, there's been an uptick in cases over the past couple of weeks across the Commonwealth. So more to follow. But as your state representative and a physician, an issue I care very much about in the area. Another issue, which I'm sure that's probably spoken about probably every Blackstone Franklin meeting, is mass and cast, an issue I care very deeply about as a resident, as a physician who cares for many of those patients, as your state rep. I want to thank the members of this group, and I think there have been a number of them that have been present in these talks and negotiations over the past couple of years, really amplifying and advocating this issue. And it's been something that we've done in partnership. And we've made some significant headway, although a lot of work to do. But I was glad to see that Mayor Janey moved forward with a policy to address the tent issue, something that I've been pushing for and advocating on for a very long time. But we got to a place where she finally declared that this was an emergency, something that needed to be done. And, the tents there was no longer a tenable position. And, I tried to be in the area quite often, actually jog some of the streets every couple of days. And if you go down, there's still tents, I believe, on Atkinson for sure, but across Southampton and on both sides, looks like they've been, are no longer there. And in addition to kind of pushing that angle, we've been able successfully at the office, at the State House, to advocate for funds. And just 2 weeks ago, I want to say, we passed a couple of amendments, $6.5 million that I wrote amendments for, to be given to the city of Boston to provide services outside of that area, primarily low threshold housing, $5 million for low threshold housing and $1.5 million for services. Obviously, that this is a complex situation, that it is really the nexus of homelessness, mental and substance use, and it's going to require a lot of work. But I think in conjunction with the community and stakeholders alike, my job is to really amplify your voices and to make sure that the state is involved. And today, as some of you may know, Mary Lou Sutters, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, decided to move forward on creating some low threshold housing in the Shattuck. And I think many of us in the South End, Roxbury, and the Newmarket area have been advocating for a while. And looks like they're going to be creating 30 units of housing, low threshold housing there, using a company called Pallet, which creates very simple but comprehensive enough housing to put people there as winter approaches. I'll be brief. I know it's already 8:08, and I'll give you a couple of minutes and time to ask questions and topic conversation. Tomorrow in the legislature, we'll be working on the ARPA bill, the American Rescue Plan. As you know, the federal government recently passed a fairly large, trillions of dollars in the American Rescue Plan a while ago. State of Massachusetts, just this past week when we were there, a $3.8 billion. This is extra money that is going to really address longstanding issues in education, housing. And so we're taking a vote on that hopefully tomorrow. But it was within that bill that I was able to advocate for those $6.5 million to go directly to Mass and Cass. Another important issue to bring up is redistricting. As some of you are aware, I represent the entire area, but I don't have all the South End. I have most of it, but every 10 years, the Commonwealth is redistricted. And the way that my district is shaped up, and we just voted on our bill last week, I will have more of the South End now. So I will stretch all the way to Ink Block. And I will have probably about 90% of the South End, a real true South End state representative seat. There's been an issue in terms of representation in the South End for a while. We're split up between 3 city council districts, 2 state rep districts, and now I'll be taking over the vast majority of the South End. So I'll pause there. It's 8:10 right now. David, I don't know how long you guys go for, but my guess it's folks are tired. They have kids to raise, mouths to feed, and work to go in the morning. But I'm happy to take some questions and have a conversation.
Any questions for John or comments? On the, I have one question for you, which is actually on the redistricting. So your district now includes most, or what formerly Aaron Michaelwitz had?
Correct. So
okay.
Yeah, right now I actually represent the South End and I live in the South End, but I also represent parts of Fenway, parts of Back Bay, and parts of Roxbury as well. And so given the change in the districts, and I think we did a good job in the House. We had 20 majority minority districts. The Advocates wanted 29. I think we're up to 30 something. But I essentially took over Aaron's 2 precincts that were Pembroke Street-ish area by the Southwest Corridor Park. And that's Ward 4, Precinct 3, and Ward 3, Precinct 7, which is the Ink Block, Albany Yards, over there by BMC. And so Aaron still has 4-1, which is Dartmouth, Appleton area, over on the northern part of the South End.
And the other change, which doesn't affect you, but is on the Senate side, is that Nick Collins, who's the state senator from South Boston, will now be representing a substantial part of the South End, I believe, including our part of the South End.
Yeah, Nick Collins, the senator from South Boston, will go all the way from South Boston, all the way almost to Roxbury by Mass Ave.
Right.
And I've had several conversations with Nick, and Nick's a friend of mine, and I told him that I will be more than happy to walk him, introduce him to the many South End community associations and organizations. And I can tell you that Nick, being a classic South End politician, is very committed to constituency services.
Yeah, we've already heard from him.
And so he will be around, and I will be there to kind of help guide him and introduce him to folks.
Thank you. Good, that'll be great. Maybe we can have him in January. Tony.
Hey, John. I obviously have a Mass and Cass question for you. So what happened to all the people? Where did they move? How have they been home so quickly? I obviously have noticed there's a significant reduction in number of people none on Southampton, as you said, still a large concentration on Atkinson Street, but how did the city resolve that so quickly? I mean, I'm super impressed, but I'm just worried about where did those people go?
Yeah, so it's a great question. It's a city question, but I've been in conversation with the city about it.
Yeah.
In conversation with the mayor, as we tried to advocate for this, we wanted to make it clear we wanted a public health approach first and foremost. That was really, the foundation of which is housing, right? And so the idea was that no one would be forced to go unless they had a place to go to, either a friend's place, family member, a detox shelter of some sort, right? And if they didn't have a place to go, they wouldn't necessarily be, swept up, as was the case a couple years ago, where it was more of a public safety point. And so they've done, and I can't get the numbers, I think 66 people. First of all, there were like about 150 to 200 tents there, 300 plus people. And I think that 66 people ultimately got services, I want to say. And I can get you those numbers exactly because they changed. I think last Friday, the conversation with the city, but there was a significant number that went into shelters, a significant number that decided to leave, and folks that went into detox as well. Now, there were a couple people that were picked up on warrants or did not want to leave, or maybe were charged with disorderly conduct. I'm not sure, but I think it's less than 5 people, and they went to that court essentially that they made. At the jail there, and some people were transported to a different jail. Some people were offered services there.
So it's just great to know that they are in a better place. Like the encouragement was to get out of the tent, but to find to the city to help them find a better housing solution for each individual that left. As you say, nobody was kicked out with nowhere to go.
Well, I mean, that's the plan. I mean, in an ideal world it is, but as you know, some people just picked up their tent and moved down the street, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very
understood.
Challenging.
But it was a big change. It was a very big change. So I wondered if there was some just magical new solution. But thank you for just putting me at ease that they aren't just, roaming around looking for somewhere, that they have had options presented and been able to move to a better location for their recovery.
I mean, this is the challenge really, because some of the folks there don't necessarily feel safe in shelters.
Yeah.
Some are addicted to drugs that they have to shoot up 8 or 9 times a day. So this is the idea behind this low threshold housing. Right. Okay. And this is the amendment that we put in was primarily geared towards that. And so the amendment essentially gives the money to the city of Boston to help with this. The other thing I'll mention is that the city of Boston also created a partnership with the state to really help find folks and help get folks housing, right? Come up with a central database of sorts. And I am encouraged by essentially the mass and cast czar that Michelle Wu has put there. She was a former DPH commissioner. Her name is Monica Burrell. She's also a physician. She worked at BMC, Healthcare for the Homeless. I think she was the chief medical officer at Healthcare for the Homeless. I bring her up because she knows the community very well. And secondly, she's also was the former commissioner of DPH. So she has those state connects, right? They're going to be very important and crucial in terms of having a very robust partnership to get people, places to go and get services that they need. But again, very complicated. We're nowhere near. And as you know, being there, living there, every winter kind of almost goes away a little bit, and then, it comes back with a vengeance, in spring. And so, but again, because of the advocacy and the efforts of you and community members and myself, we've amplified this, it's in the news like almost every day, I want to say, and, but a lot more work to do.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you very much.
One question, John, before we let you go and before we adjourn that, it's actually, and it's from Peter in the chat. And I'll, Peter, you're welcome to ask it yourself, but I'll try to paraphrase it. So Peter's asking about the activity and the potential future uses at the Shattuck campus in Jamaica Plain, and the fact that there are forces militating against using it for services and for supportive housing, and instead arguing that it should be returned to sort of parkland. That's the Emerald Conservancy. And so I think what he's asking, but again, Peter, jump in if you wish, that what is your take on the prospects for those people who are sort of against the use of the Shattuck JP as a social services hub? How worried should we be, assuming we support that these pro-park people might prevail.
Yeah, well, I think, let me just say, my guess is that Peter, David, myself, we're also pro-park as well, right? Like we believe in green space. We believe in, outdoor spaces as well. This is something, Peter, that I've been advocating for a very long time. Those 13 acres, I mean, that is state property that was designated since 1950 statute for public health, right? And so this is something that many of us have been advocating for a long time. David is correct that there are folks that have a different vision for these acres, and primarily green space. What I can tell you is that I've advocated and have had multiple conversations with the executive office here who runs that area, i.e. Secretary Sutters, and they've been very forthcoming and very honest about their desire to create affordable, have services there for these people. And I think today's commitment to that and the announcement that Mary Lou Sutters had today suggests to me that she still believes that and she's still pushing for that. Now, my guess is that there will be conversations with the city of Boston, but again, this is state property, right? This is not, under this jurisdiction of the city. And so the state really kind of wields the power here. And I don't know, David, were you part of I think Steve and Desi were part of the conversations over the past couple of years,
right,
in terms of preparing that area to see what they want to see from it. But look, the fact of the matter is what we have in Massacas right now is not tenable, right? We need to decentralize services, not just across the city, but across the region, I would argue. And if you look and there are challenges outside of Boston. We just saw what happened in Revere. Therefore, you have to utilize what is possible in the city of Boston, whether it's Shattuck or whether it's, as Mayor Wu has said, that we're going to look at, empty lots or properties that are, available to the city of Boston to put people in, because, the concentration of services at Massacas is what I would argue has been such, a challenging thing, and has resulted in a situation where you have these three issues: homelessness, mental health, and substance use. But because the situation there, it's led to public safety issues, sexual trafficking, fires, leptospirosis, violence, and something I see every day in the ER, not just from people overdosing, but the trafficking and all that. And, what was happening at Massacas was no longer tenable.
Thank you. That largely did address my issue. Again, I was in some ways, the last meeting we had, they talked about some of the services coming here to the south end and the medical district here. And when I first read that, I'm just hoping people don't say, well, we'll just say, hey, there's a city hospital here, so let's just move more stuff here to the south end, because we quote unquote already have medical treatment. So
right. And you're alluding, and Peter, I think you're alluding also to the fact that the Shattuck Hospital is coming to East Newton Street, which is part of why the JP campus is becoming vacant. And so there's a whole separate conversation or issue around exactly what services will come over, and they've put down some pretty bright lines around what's coming and what's not coming, and they've been pretty consistent about that over the past couple of years. But it's certainly something we just continue to keep an eye on, because as you said,
it also, I'll just add, it doesn't change the fact that for a long time that area, Newmarket, was a hotbed for services, right? People just kept on putting services there, and which culminated in the situation we have today. And I'll give you an example. Just as of a couple months ago, they tried to put more services in the hotel right there. And I think a lot of us, me, neighborhood advocates, said no. And I think it was the Roundhouse Inn was what they were trying to put services in. We said enough is enough here. Not that we don't believe these people need services, but you are adding and exacerbating the problem that currently stands right now, which comes as a result of the concentration of services. And look, I want to treat these people; these are my patients, but the situation at Massacas wasn't allowing anyone to get clean, or I wouldn't say anyone, but it was creating a challenging situation for people to get the services they need, and again, complicated by the violence and trafficking and all these bad things that that people with substance use issues don't need to be dealing with.
Anyone else want to ask John a question or give him a comment before we adjourn? I don't seeing anyone, John.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you. So thank you for coming. And thank you everybody for coming. And we are adjourning amazingly early for us. We're only 9 minutes past our scheduled time. So that's sort of a record. So with that, I'll say thank you for coming tonight and see you all in January. And feel free, obviously, to reach out in the meantime if you want.
Thanks.
See you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, David. Thanks, Tony.
Bye.
Thank you, Drew. Thanks, Danny.